All right, what's going on, everybody? This is Spike Shooter here. I'm with Jonas Mark as always.
Hello.
What's going on, man?
Nothing much. Just chilling.
All right, so this isn't going to take up a whole lot of time. This was just something that kind of popped my attention yesterday, and I wanted to put this really into perspective as to what kind of fans we have today, and something that kind of came up a couple weeks ago in an interview with Triple H too. Uh, this was something I saw yesterday that kind of really put things into perspective as to who we got for viewers today. It says all he does is talk, and he meaning The Rock apparently. His matches are substandard. His fans are mostly little girls and homos who have a crush on him. Where were all these fans a year ago at WrestleMania 15? The Rock says, I really suck. And then another guy goes, you are totally right, The Rock sucks. And honestly, this is basically what modern day wrestling fans have pretty much are nowadays, and would probably be if the internet was exactly like this 21 years ago. I mean, don't you think we're we've gotten a little too far now with uh critiques and all this bullshit? It's like they become complete elitists um whenever it comes to wrestlers that aren't known for their in-ring work. Honestly, I mean, what does this even tell you, man?
I just don't get how people could criticize and say like all he does is talk. It's like, yeah, well, unlike the people now, he's actually good on a mic. He actually had charisma. You actually wanted to hear what he said on the mic. You don't want to hear Bailey's talk show shit on the mic. No one gives a fuck about that. And then like, yeah, I'm sure there's some people who like fangirl over The Rock, and that's the only reason some people saw that movie Skyscraper to see The Rock in it. But like his stuff was like legendary, and like his stuff you won't forget. I can't think of anybody who's going to be like from now and be like, oh, do you remember that classic WrestleMania bout between Bailey and Banks? No, it's always going to be like Austin and The Rock who are memorable. Like, I just don't get how people could say he even sucks.
But but seriously, I mean, replace this with someone that is a pretty good mic worker these days, which is kind of hard to really talk about. But if there was like a wrestler that was not really known for their in-ring work, and they were um, mostly like known for their charisma. I mean, I could go with like Dean Ambrose before he turned into a clown. Um, this would be a prime example of a more modern day uh, version of what we considered to be a great wrestler back in the Attitude Era. Someone that was probably more of a brawler and shit, but still had a great character and still had decent mic skills that definitely made up for their uh, bad ring style. Well, they're not good technical work rate, so to say. And this was I think I remember seeing a lot of similar comments about this guy during the Shield era too, back when he wasn't being a giant clown. But yep, this is just evidence to the fact that nobody cares about character building or with storylines or anything like that nowadays. Only about the in-ring work. And that's kind of what set me off because it is what it is with these people. You can only focus on in-ring stuff and everything else is just horrible. Or it just doesn't matter.
I mean, and we addressed this in our other video too of like The people we have now don't look like wrestlers.
Yeah.
They can't actually wrestle. They're not good on the mic, and they don't have good characters. So it's like I can't even think of like, let's see, Rock is, actually looks like a wrestler. Looks like he could mess people up if he met them in an alley. Good on the mic, good actual like skills, and like can actually wrestle. I can't think of many people currently who you can say that about.
Yeah, it's
Like,
the same thing. And I know that this goes to the AEW fans too, because they'll criticize, they'll praise all the in-ring work of a person, and then don't even talk about the character shit. I mean, Kenny Omega, they'll reserve something for Kenny Omega, but everyone else they'll probably be a little too hard on, especially for the ones that you know didn't come from Japan or weren't part of the Bullet Club. They'll, anyone that was from Japan are definitely not going to be the type that will be shown favorably to these modern day wrestling fans. And it's not just with AEW; it's for pretty much anybody that that is a smart and will just not give anybody that isn't an in-ring technician a chance.
yeah, I just don't get it. Like today's fans, I feel like they're spoiled and entitled and act like everything that they're having is better. And it's like you can't say it's better because you wouldn't have half the stuff you have now without these other wrestlers. So it's like for anybody to even say like the old wrestlers suck, like are they aware of where all these young people get their inspiration or like even their skills in the ring?
No, I think it's also due to the fact that a lot of them are younger and probably didn't bother or didn't even care to put on wrestling at that time, yet they call themselves wrestling fans. But just they don't grasp the fact that characters and promo work has traditionally been, at least in the sports entertainment world, what draws the money. And then you have AEW who are getting numbers into the 400,000s, and they're wondering why there isn't as much interest in the product, even though they're grasping at straws very, very tightly to say that everything's okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're barely scraping by in terms of numbers, ratings. I don't even know what their ratings are, but they can't be that good. It's just like you're literally taking something that is already good and was really good, and you're trying to replicate it in a way that makes it worse.
Yeah. And that brings me now to the second part of this video. So apparently Tony Khan did an interview with Forbes, I believe, talking about pretty much how AEW came together and what his uh, thoughts were going forward with the company. I remember when I was reading it, there was something that kind of made that just felt a little off. And he said, um, I'm glad that WCW failed because it created a vacancy for us to come in and succeed, but made a fairly bleak period for the wrestling business. Now, when you hear something like that, it makes it think that there wasn't anything outside of WWE that came right after WCW's demise, or I think ECW's demise too. And it's kind of narcissistic, honestly, because for a self-proclaimed wrestling fan, like he likes to tell everybody, and you hear all these people saying nobody should want the demise of a wrestling company at all. That was kind of going the opposite way. I mean, why did anyone think that WCW going under was going to be any sort of positive? Seriously.
I mean, it's kind of ironic considering he's representing like AEW and stuff. It's like, hey, your company isn't even doing that great. So it's like, it's interesting he criticizes that when it's like, yeah, I give it 2 years till your AEW is bought out or sold out to someone.
And also another one, he did talk about how his father was actually went to an ECW show back in. It says it was from back in 1996 when it was at the prime of their existence. Now, I'm not going to say that ECW was such a great promotion. I know you're a big fan of a lot of the wrestlers. They're Jonas Mark, but as the company as a whole, it it was kind of more of a niche wrestling promotion, like some of the newer places, honestly. But going back to what I'm saying, it's funny he's was pretty much stomping on the grave of WCW, but his father was such a big fan of ECW. I mean, he was quoted as saying, "My dad couldn't believe what he was seeing when he went to the show." He said this was like a mix between an underground rock show and a cult. Now, I think that's going a little bit overboard, in my honest opinion. But another thing he's said about his father in regards to AEW was something was another thing I found kind of funny. And he quoted him saying, "I didn't think this was a good idea at all, but I told Tony, look, when I'm dead and gone, I'm going to be leaving you and your sister a lot of money. Why don't you blow some of that while I'm alive?" Now, when I hear that quote, it kind of tells me that Tony Khan doesn't really see this as like a legit wrestling company. He's kind of like using it as sort of like a project, his own self project, in that he can just waste money on it. If something goes under, well, it's not my fault. I'm still going to be the son of a rich football owner. So if whatever happens, I'm still going to be filthy rich. That's kind of the vibe that I got. And it's kind of funny to hear that his father said, "How about you waste some money that I'm giving to you when while I'm still alive?" I mean, what kind of owner does that? Seriously,
Someone who pretty much doesn't know what they're doing.
no.
He seems like one of those people in elementary or middle school who talks a big game and says, "Oh, I can do this. Oh, my father's a millionaire. Oh, I can do all this stuff." And then when it comes to actually proving it, they can't do it. So that's how I see him.
Which is kind of funny considering he does come up as a bit of a douchebag whenever he's on TV. At least, uh, even in the Twitter videos, like the one I showed you a few weeks back after the whole WWE and New Japan partnership news. I mean, there's really nothing likable really to say about this guy, too. I mean, when you're setting policies where you can't really uh, say anything that's inflammatory towards another wrestler or anything that might hurt other wrestlers' feelings in your company, that kind of tells you just how soft he really is outside of being pretentious and egotistical, honestly.
Yeah, I just don't. He just doesn't. I feel like he doesn't know what he's doing. I feel like he's trying to like do everything as he's going along with it. I feel like there's no planning. He just doesn't really understand what he's doing.
Yes, but I think it also is surprising that both their executive vice presidents are also title holders, because you got Kenny Omega, who's the main champ. You got Cody Rhodes, I believe, is a champ. You got the Young Bucks, who are tag team champs. And Tony doesn't see the creative control that these guys have given themselves. I mean, this is WCW once again, especially in the late '90s when Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan were pretty much writing the shows and writing themselves to be the faces, pretty much. And I don't see this going any better. I mean, they're already in a very tough position ratings wise, and if Tony was as big of a wrestling fan as he was, he would know that this kind of activity is exactly what causes the downfall of WCW. So why is he not seeing this and starting to worry?
That I just don't get. I feel like I don't see them lasting too long, and we'll have more people back at TNA, more people back in the Indies, and yeah, I can't see AEW. It's 2021 now. I don't see AEW being around in 2025.
No, that would be an amazing feat, a very sad feat, but a very amazing feat. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised considering TNA is still kicking after almost 20 years in the business, even though they're pretty much a walking zombie. But I wouldn't be shocked, but it'd still be an amazing feat of in and of itself. But I also got to tell you, another thing that I really hate about some of these modern day AEW fans is, well, modern wrestling. Let's just call them the Smarks. The Smarks saying that whenever there's a rating decrease, they will start to say, "Oh, well, it's because of DVR and all this internet shit that's the reason why the ratings are going down." And that just seems like the lamest excuse ever. If I mean, pro wrestling, like a lot of shows, have been considered appointment viewing for how many decades now? 4. And all of a sudden, these people have decided, oh, it's no longer appointment viewing. I only watch it on DVR. I just watch it the next day. But you know, it's just I just find it a completely ridiculous excuse as to why their company is failing. I really do. It's they just want to feel like WWE wronged them, so they have to put all their time and effort into this company, even though it's a absolutely horrible company. I mean, when you have Kenny Omega 69ing with Don Callis, you have all these midgets doing all these flips and dives, and the fact that this kind of novelty hasn't worn off in their minds is something that really baffles me from time to time. I feel like these people are not getting the fact that Japanese style wrestling does not draw in North America.
Yeah, I mean, an occasional person from Japan or something, some people are like, oh, that's okay. And now you have Kenny Omega, who's nothing special, generic looking wrestler, and he's somehow this great champion amongst everyone. It's like, okay, so we're just going to ignore the fact that we actually have actual champions in the company before, and we're going to just give all the belts to this talentless guy. And yeah,
Jungle Boy is being pushed right now. A fucking guy that has absolutely no character, and I think he's fighting for a world title.
oh, wonderful.
Uh, and they don't see a problem with it. They really don't see a problem with it because everything that AEW puts out has to be good. There can't be anything that's even slightly mediocre in their minds.
So they put out Jungle Boy when they want it to be good.
And Orange Cassidy too, even though he's pretty much a comedic guy. I don't know. This turned into like a full fledged AEW rant with their fans. But even I know we talked about Tony Khan, but yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't know why everybody keeps wanting to continue supporting this and getting tickets to this bullshit. I know in New York City, they're going to be having a show over there, and everyone's creaming their pants and getting so excited that this is going to be the next step in their evolution by being in New York City.
I just can't wait for them to get booed out of the building.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's going to happen. No, considering the fact that the people that are going to be in the stands are going to be the people that will love every single thing that they do. This is what happens when we've watched 20 years of wrestling and you see it go downhill to the point where you have bronies being the only people still watching the program on a regular basis now, guys. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just awful. I mean, stupid AEW, like, I'd say something positive about it if I had anything positive to say about it.
Man. I mean, you have something positive to say about TNA even today. So that's saying a lot coming from you. Honestly.
There's a couple things in TNA that I don't mind that don't give me complete, like, cancer to watch, but I mean, literally AEW, the best thing I can say is Mark Henry and Big Show are over there, but I don't know if that's a good thing or if I just feel sorry for them. So I'd rather them do that than be on the street.
Yeah. Did you there's actually a picture of the Big Show, or as they're calling him, Paul White now, his WCW name. And they showed his wrestling attire, and it's pretty much a bigger version of Seth Rollins' attire after he left the Shield. Like the exact same thing.
I just don't get why.
And they're spending $10 million to make a video game. And that's why the company isn't profitable right now, because they put so much into a video game that I don't think so many people are going to buy unless it's just this big revolutionary thing. Which I
remember there was a TNA video game. I think it was 2004, 2006.
Yeah.
It's the worst wrestling video game I ever played. I have a feeling that will no longer be the worst I ever played once this shit comes out.
Oh, are you actually going to play that?
I'll see if I find somebody who's dumb enough to buy it. Okay. I'm not paying for it, but I played the TNA video game. It was crap. It was the worst wrestling game I ever played.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we're going to end it here with I'm completely baffled as to, after 20 years, this is what wrestling has become, and this is what the so-called competitor to WWE is now. And Tony Khan, I don't know if he's blind or he's just so much of a mark that and trying to please the Dave Meltzers and the Brian Alvarez of the world and their 5-star matches ratings. But yeah, this is just a ridiculous period to be a wrestling fan, man. But we'll end it up there. I think we're going to try to do take 2 of our movie discussion coming up. And then after that, I think we're going to start our series on doing reviews of the Dark Side of the Ring documentaries.
I'm good with that.
All right. So until then, this is Spike Shooter. Sorry, guys, we weren't doing any vids at all last week, but we'll try to get back on schedule. But until then, take care.